Hello and welcome to the next installment in the Huntsville I2C Boot Camp for Non-Accountants, and also presented by Warren Averett. I've been with you for a few episodes, and I've spared you an introduction on the last one, and I will on this one as well. But I'm Roger Spain with Warren Averett CPAs and Advisors, and we are so happy to be participating in this. Today, we're going to talk about key performance indicators and metrics. Key performance indicators are something that we hear so often people talking about in business. KPIs, key performance indicators, KPIs. Everybody wants to talk about KPIs and operating metrics, performance metrics, and dashboarding of KPIs and metrics. Today, we're going to focus on simply what are key performance indicators or KPIs, what are good metrics to look at, and not necessarily get into how to build a dashboard and those sorts of things, but more what a business owner should consider or management team should consider putting into their KPIs and their dashboards. Let's start by defining what is by defining key performance indicator as a term and what are KPIs. And I want to make a comparison too, as I do this, to metrics, particularly performance metrics, or financial measurement metrics. As we think about KPIs, I think of those as being things that have a great impact on the business and its performance, not just its financial outcomes, but actual performance of its core function. KPIs are things that can be measured frequently, are often operational, not financial. And the reason I want to make that distinction is because your performance is how well you do whatever it is that you do. Your financial statements and your income statement are an output of those efforts. So here with key performance indicators, I like to discuss with my clients the importance of measuring operational functionality rather than financial performance. Financial performance falls out as a result in the financial statements. Operational performance has to be measured otherwise outside of the financial statements. So I encourage my clients to think of KPIs as being operational, not financial. KPIs impact performance, operations, and profit. But again, profit is an outcome, not necessarily something we measure to tell us how well we're doing in the company. And finally, KPIs indicate effectiveness. And they can be historical, or they can be prospective or forward-looking. And I really want to encourage you as a business owner or manager to think about those things that you can measure that are indicative of how the company is going to perform. That is critical to me. Focusing on how the company will perform and what are your leading indicators, your leading performance indicators. And we'll talk some more about this as we go through this. KPIs on the sales or cost side often involve comparisons that we break down within the company, but more importantly, as we break that down, we might look at divisions, customer types, customer categories, salespeople. How are certain salespeople doing? If we're looking at cost, it might be how certain managers of certain facilities or certain areas are managing their cost or their performance or their output. We might look at comparisons by a salesperson. That was pretty obvious. We might look at sales or cost by territory or by product line. And by no means do I want to suggest that what we're going to cover in the next few minutes, with probably roughly 5 minutes remaining in this segment, I don't pretend that we're going to go through an exhaustive list of KPIs. The audience of this video is likely representative of a vast array of different types of businesses and companies in different industries. So by no means do I want anyone to think of this as an exhaustive list of potential KPIs. That is really for you to decide as the manager or owner of your company. I'm trying to get everyone to think about the things that they need to measure in order to run a better company. So as we work through this, then we might then start thinking about some of those leading indicators that I was talking about. So if we look at the sales pipeline, for example, leading indicators might include how many open opportunities we have. We would want to quantify our win ratio relative to total opportunities, because then we could back into the number of open opportunities we need at all times, knowing that we win in a hypothetical 27% of all opportunities we win. So in order to meet this much revenue, we need this many dollars in opportunities in our pipeline. We'll want to look at potentially average sales amounts per employee, per salesperson, per division, any way you want to slice it that makes sense to your company. What is our lead or cycle time for sales? What is our lead or cycle time for production? How do we do on large opportunities versus small opportunities? And this is a very important thing that many companies don't quantify, but I encourage you to do so. What is your customer acquisition cost? How much does it cost you to get the next customer? And that will include sales, obviously, sales salaries, but it'll include a lot of other resources in the company as well. So think about trying to quantify your customer acquisition costs, because that could be very enlightening. As we start to look now, maybe shifting a little bit at the blending of some financial information with some operational information, we can think about things like revenue per full-time equivalent employee, or sales per labor hour, or sales per labor dollar. We can think about our total labor cost per full-time equivalent employee. What is our utilization? How much of our time is productive, particularly in a service industry here? How much of our time is productive or revenue generating versus more like overhead efforts that we may use with our time? What is our realization? If we have billing rates for services and our standard billing rate is $100 an hour and our revenue is $85 per hour, then that's easy math. In this case, our realization would be 85%, but that's very telling. And we would want to look at that too by industry, by location, geographically, by customer type, by engagement size. So I encourage you to think about all these things as you think about performance indicators. In addition, there are other somewhat financial related indicators, KPIs, that are very telling, that may tell us where we're headed. What is our work in process right now? What is our backlog? How many days sales do we have in backlog? What does our AR aging look like? And what is our product defective rate or customer return rate? To me, this one's very important, particularly if you're in any sort of a materials or finished good type of offering, and even if you're in a blend of service and finished goods type of arrangement to generate revenue. What is your return rate, or what is your defective rate? And driving that down have a lot to do with how well your company is able to generate profit in the future. Now I'm going to shift to metrics, and I want us to think about now, instead of key performance indicators, I want to make a distinction here, switching over to metrics, to think about the outputs. Here, I think it's important, as I was saying a moment ago, to make a distinction there, because these again are outputs or measurement metrics that tell us perhaps how we're performing, but they are again outputs and not necessarily leading indicators. So it's excellent analysis and good to know, but these are performance metrics or financial metrics that don't necessarily tell us where we're heading. So that's the distinction I make here. But I think it's very important that companies think about these things, and rather than read them to you, you have time to look at those on the screen. But these again are those outputs in your financial statements or perhaps in operational data that will help you. More of those follow on this page, where we're looking at potentially things like inventory turnover and day sales and inventory. In other words, how much inventory do you carry in terms of number of days of sales that you have. So again, not to try to provide you an exhaustive list. And there are many resources on the internet in addition to watching this video that are excellent for that. But really, the goal here is to try to get business owners and managers thinking about the things they need to measure and monitor in order to help the company perform at its highest level. Here, I'm showing you some more metrics, and these are covered in a little more detail in a previous video where we talked about financial ratios, but these are the sorts of things that you'll want to look at in order to assess how you've been performing historically and what how well you've done, whatever it is that you've done to get to the point wherever you are today. So with that, I'll pause until our next video. And I hope that this has been beneficial to you, but it's intended to help business owners and managers set up the KPIs, or key performance indicators, that they need to measure in order to see where the company's going, plan accordingly, and develop strategy around that, as well as recognizing that there are financial and operating metrics to keep an eye on as well in order to explain however it is that we've come to the place where we are and what we can do better as we try to move forward. With that, I'll stop until we see each other once again in the next installment of this video series. I hope you're enjoying it.